Okay, so croeso pawb, diolch am ymuno ni heno. Thank you for joining us tonight. This is the Wales Allotment Forum on the 17th of July in 2024. So tonight is a little bit of an unknown because we are restarting the Welsh Allotment Forum. The reason why it's a Welsh Allotment Forum is because there's 3 staff members from Social Farms and Gardens here tonight, and we're based in Wales, and the programme that we work on is actually funded by the Welsh Government. My name is Katie, and I work as part of the Community Land Advisory Service Cymru team. We also have Sarah, who has a class hat on, but she's also involved in other projects run by Social Farms and Gardens. Sarah just gave a little wave then. She's got the lovely apple blossom behind her head. And then we also have Lucy, who's joining us, and she's the manager from Class Cymru. Lucy, do you want to just say a word about what Class does? Are you able to do that from where you are? Going off mute? You're on mute. Lucy's still on mute. Looks like you're on your phone, Lucy. Are you able
Hang
to
on.
come up?
Okay, right, yes. I'm Lucy Taylor. I manage the Community Land Advisory Service with Katie and Sarah. And our programme really is a service really to help you gain access to land through leases and licenses and tenancy agreements on your allotments. And we also advise on planning. If you've got any queries around whether you need planning permission or how to go about gaining planning permission. So yeah, I'm just going to be here in the background and seeing how things go while your discussions carry on.
Great, thank you, Lucy. So I just want to sort of say really that I mean, collectively, we've all got experiences to share, and we really welcome input from others. In the future, we hope to have a representative from the National Allotment Society to join us, and potentially we'll have others too with specific experiences to lead on conversation. If you have any questions, maybe initially it might be preferable to put them in the chat, but obviously if you would like to ask a question, you're welcome to kind of raise your hand or wave if you've got your camera on. Because we've only got an hour, we haven't got that long to talk, and so for those that have arrived a bit later, I'm inviting you to put your name and where you're from in the chat feature, so people can get an idea as to where everyone's come from. I think that we do have people from all over Wales and a few folk from England too, croeso pawb. And I think probably it's fair to say that that we've got people here who are individual plot holders, those who represent a community or group or an association, those that are elected town or community councillors, possibly a landowner or two. So as I've mentioned tonight, the theme is about allotments and the law. However, we do know that allotments are a huge topic, and so there are lots of areas that we could discuss, which is why previously we have shared a link to a very short form about future topic ideas, and I'll reshare that at the end of the chat. So if you haven't contributed about things that you'd like to learn a bit more about in the future, please just complete that form. That would be really helpful. I'm just going to explain a little bit about the sort of the background to the forum tonight. So Social Farms and Gardens, along with a number of partners, ran a European grant funded programme which ended last year. And one of the activity strands was allotments. And that resulted in the setup of a Wales Allotment Forum, which met quarterly for discussion about developing allotments and about challenges, etc. It also resulted in the creation of regeneration of 420 allotment plots across 17 sites in Wales. And during that programme, we delivered training for communities who were looking at setting up new allotments or revitalising derelict plots. And also it built on previous mapping and support and resource development that we've delivered for Welsh Government. So that's just a little bit of the sort of the background. What we're doing now is we're sort of trying to revitalise the forum through the Community Land Advisory Service. And we're really open to seeing what people need, what people want. We've got a huge amount of resources that have been already produced, so we really can do lots of signposting as well. Just to say, we currently haven't got the same access to funding that we previously did, but things can change very quickly. So I do suggest it's worth you signing up to our newsletter and to join us as members, which is free. There is also an allotment forum group, which has been a bit quiet, which is a Facebook group, which has been a little bit quiet, but if there's interest, we're keen to kind of get that active again. So we can also share the link to that for those of you on Facebook. So the spirit of the tonight's session is informal. We haven't prepared a presentation, so we're going to chat and share links to existing resources. So I'm just going to kick off with a little bit of a general kind of outline of sort of allotments and the law, and then we can see where that goes. So allotments appear in sort of several acts of Parliament. Some of them are more than a century old, but broadly speaking, the combined effects of these laws can be divided into sort of two main themes, really. The first are those which govern the provision and disposal of sites, and the second which govern the use of individual plots. And I'm just going to broadly explain the three types of allotments. So the first are called statutory allotments, and those are the ones that are covered by allotment law. And they have been acquired or appropriated by a local authority or any type of authority, such as a parish council, community council, or county council, and that's for the specific purpose of being used as allotments. They can't be sold or used for any other purpose without the consent of Welsh ministers. Now, where management has been devolved or leased to an allotment association, it's often known as a self-managed site. And statutory status does not change even if the site is being managed by another party. That's really important to understand that. We've also got privately owned or community-led allotment sites, and this is often where there's lack of statutory allotments available. So some communities start groups and find land and create their own allotment sites. And these community allotment sites are not subject to the same laws as statutory, i.e. council sites, and nor the same protections. And thirdly and finally, there are also temporary allotment sites. And this is when, if land's been acquired or held by a local authority for another purpose, but in the meantime is used as allotments. So for example, if a school on a local authority site decided to sort of fence off some of its playing field and create allotments to be let to local people, this would be a temporary allotment, as the site was not originally acquired for allotment provision. Another example would be if land was bought for a future expansion of cemetery, which in some cases can take place many years in advance of need. So even though they may be used as allotments for decades, they're still described as temporary allotments. So those three types of allotments, they're all different, and it's only the statutory allotments that are kind of covered by the laws. And just to be really clear, all allotment sites are subject to the planning system. And so as Lucy mentioned earlier, if you have any questions about planning on whatever type of site you are involved with or will be involved with, we can provide advice about that. So I've just done quite a lot of talking quite quickly. Sarah, are there any questions or comments in the chat that that are relevant?
Sorry, I took my eye off the chat for a minute, but I think so far it's just people introducing themselves.
Okay.
How do we sign up to the newsletter and join the group?
Okay, we'll share the link for that, or maybe if you've got a minute, Sarah, to pop the link in, but if not, we'll do that at the end. Does anyone have any questions about those sort of 3 definitions of allotments? Is that all kind of straightforward? I kind of, yeah, if that's okay, I can carry on chatting. Is anyone waving their hands about? I can't quite see at the moment.
Oh, someone asks, how do we determine what category we are? That's Tracy Davis.
So the question is, I guess, Tracy, are you already on an allotment site? Maybe we could have a conversation about that.
Do you want to unmute yourself, Tracy, and just explain a bit of the background of, what of your question?
Yeah,
There we go.
so we've got a lease with Collick County Borough Council that runs until 2037, but I'm not sure if the site was initially acquired as an allotment site. So I suppose really what we need to determine is what the site was initially put there for. Was it for, acquired for allotments, or is it something that is just there as a temporary basis?
So who owns your site? Did you say who owns your site? I was just typing at the beginning.
Collick County Borough Council.
Yeah, so if it belongs to the council, it's probably a statutory site.
Yeah, I think
because
so.
it's owned by the council. It's been used for the purposes of allotments, and as far as you know, it wasn't previously used for a different purpose, and then has become a temporary allotment site. So that would be a statutory site.
Yeah, so even though we got the lease, it's still a statutory allotment site.
Yeah, it is.
So.
It is. Yeah, even though you're leasing the site and running the site on their behalf, are you as a community managed site?
Yes.
Yeah, because they own the land and they are an allotment authority, and it is used as allotments, then it is a statutory site. Yeah. So, but it doesn't really make a huge amount of difference. Only if they wanted to get rid of it, if they wanted to dispose of it, then they'd have to ask Welsh Government for permission to do that.
Okay, Sam.
Yes, Sam would like to ask a question. Crack on, Sam. You need to unmute yourself.
My audio, there it is. Hello.
There we go. Hi.
So, if it's a parish council ran allotment, how do we manage when we have to try to get somebody off the site because they've caused a nuisance, they've broke all the agreement rules, and they're refusing to leave, and they're sort of breaking in through the gates. They're getting other people to give them the code. How does that manage legally?
Yeah. So you've given them notice.
She's had the notice, yep, and she's still refusing to leave. She's put massive chains around the gate, around her gate. She is basically intimidating people and continuing to stay there. So we know the police have said they don't want a no.
Oh, that's helpful.
Yes. So it's how do we as a parish council manage that? Because we've done everything we can. She's even gone to the ombudsman and they're saying we've done everything, but we've got a massive issue trying to get this lady off site.
Wow, that is a really difficult one. Yeah, when you were talking about it, I was just thinking at this point it's trespass, and I would ask the police to get involved, but they've said that they won't.
No, because
that's really difficult. Because it's
council property, it's parish council. It's it's not private.
Gosh, that is really difficult, isn't it? Because it is still trespass. You haven't just got the right to walk onto any land because it's owned by a local authority or a parish council, have you? You can't just walk into a community centre when it's shut, or into council offices or whatever. It's still trespass.
Yeah, obviously what she is doing is intimidating other plot holders to give her the key code.
Yeah. And she's local to the site, is she? She lived nearby?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's literally a 5-10 minute walk from our houses, basically.
So, but if she couldn't get the key code, she wouldn't be able to get in, is that right?
Well, no, but other plot holders, she's intimidating and getting it off of them. New plot holders, she's going up to, giving them equipment to be friends with them, so they will give her information.
And when she goes inside, she's using her old plot, is she? She's growing vegetables.
Yes, she's now using and growing on her plot, which she wasn't previously. There is no hose pipe. She's putting a hose pipe on and she's leaving it on for hours. The list can go on.
How stressful.
Tracy has suggested that she might be able to dress it. Tracy, do you have any comments about this? I think we're slightly stumped, actually.
Yeah. I actually had to step in. The reason that I became chairwoman of the Caerphilly allotments was because we were having issues exactly the same as this. And my background is law. So
phone number, woman.
so no, we've had this issue loads of times, but I am actually a lawyer. But my forte is not allotment law, it's everything else. But the only way really you can do it, because it's a civil matter.
Yeah.
You've got to build a case in terms of your abiding by your rules in your constitution and any other aspects of the law that control how you work the allotments. Then you've got to go to the civil courts and you've got to ask for an injunction to stop this person coming on your land.
Yeah,
and then
that's the advice we got. It would be an injunction.
Yes, and if they keep breaching the injunction, so every time they breach it, you have to because a court order is legally enforceable by the police. It's the only time that the police will get involved is if you have a court order, such as an injunction. And then if she keeps breaching it, then you can go back and it becomes a criminal matter then, which is enforceable in the criminal courts. So you take it from a civil matter to an actual criminal matter.
Okay.
It's not that difficult, actually. You can go into your local county court to the desk and you can ask the clerk behind the desk and they will help you do the paperwork. And I think it's about £80 at the moment. So it's not too terrible, but it does kind of set a precedent then for any other issues that you might have in the future.
That is what I need. Thank you. And if I get your details afterwards, I would love them, because if I got any more questions, you could be my new best friend.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
So this is just wonderful. Thank you, in the spirit of, like, we've all got things to share, and really appreciate that contribution, Tracy. So we've all been taking notes. Thank you very much.
I'll mute myself again.
So helpful.
Thank you. I'll go quiet.
Yeah. Sorry, Sarah.
Can I just, maybe you want to message each other in the chat, which you can do without everybody else seeing, to exchange contact details, if that's all right with you, Tracy.
To Sam.
That's such helpful information. That's really, really useful. Because that is something that I'm sure happens on a lot of sites from time to time.
She intimidated somebody a few years ago to get off site, and she bullied him out.
Right.
Refuses to go herself.
There's also some more things in the chat feature with other sort of signposting as well. So
really, really good for me. Thank you, girls and boys.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Right. Any other questions that are relevant to the sort of definitions that we shared before about the different types of allotment sites? Because if not, I can move on and sort of chat about something a little bit more. I'll carry on then. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the use of individual allotment plots And just to kind of put it in a sort of very light legal context. So when an individual rents an allotment plot under an allotment tenancy agreement, the occupation of the plot is kind of governed by the Allotments Act 1922, and also the contents of the agreement itself. And just to sort of explain, the Allotments Act 1922 includes sort of following restrictions. So that's about the notice period that has to be given to leave the plot, what can be grown on the plot, and restrictions of keeping animals on the plot, the size of the individual plot, also what can be done with produce grown on the plot, and also limits on sharing and transferring the plot to others. There are subsequent various sort of allotment laws that have kind of superseded or added on to some of those elements as well, but just is to provide the kind of the context. There's not like one act which summarizes all of the elements of allotment law. It's sort of layered over many years. Are there any comments or questions about any of those points? Just having a look in the chat.
I've got one, sorry.
Yeah, great, go for it, Sam.
Chickens. What's the law on chickens?
Oh, so statutorily, allotment holders under the 1950 Act, I think, the allotment holders are allowed to keep hens or rabbits, but only if they're not causing a nuisance. And it's very simple to say that, you know, hens and rabbits with the associated food attract rats. Yeah, and so if you don't want people to keep, yes, that is just for statutory allotments, Julie. Yeah, if you don't want people to keep hens and rabbits on site, then you can say it's because of the nuisance to other plot holders, because of rats. Yeah. So but you can put that in your individual tenancy agreements. You know, the tenancy agreement that you write up for your plot holders, you can say yes or no to hens and rabbits, and you can also have you know, guidance around that if you do allow them.
Control.
You what? Sorry.
Pest control has been a big issue.
Yeah.
Chickens have cost us £900 a year on pest control.
Okay, so then you've already established that it is causing a nuisance.
I just wanted to make sure legally that we can say none of it.
Yeah, I'll find the bit for you now, and I'll put the bit of the Act in the chat that says, you know, as long as it's not causing a nuisance.
Thank you. I'll mute myself
No
again.
problem.
Yeah, what's the deal about bees as well? I just can't remember about the bees.
It doesn't mention bees in any of the acts, I don't think, no. But correct, you know, anyone feel free to pipe up and correct me. But I don't think it mentions bees. Just hens and rabbits.
Yeah, Julie, you've asked with regard to the chickens and rabbits, is that just for statutory allotments? It's the guidance from if you are under an allotment tenancy agreement, which would usually be from a statutory allotment, but some other types of allotments like temporary or community-led allotments might be using a similar type of tenancy as a kind of, you know, as a good practice model. So it depends. So you've got more flexibility, I suppose, if, well, you've got flexibility on all the whatever the issues are around animals. You can choose whether you have that in your tenancy agreements or not. What about wormeries? Wormeries, I can't see there being any problem legally with wormeries. Sarah?
No problem at all.
No. Okay. Any other questions? I can't quite see everybody, so if anyone wants to pipe up? No, people are waving. Okay. Yeah, so I was just going to talk a little bit about the provision of allotments, and just going back to sort of a bit of the background about statutory duty on allotments. Sorry, the statutory duty on local authorities to provide allotments if there is demand. So if there are 6 residents of the authority that want an allotment and there are none available, they can request that the local authority or the relevant authority, whether it's a community council or whatever, can provide them. However, yeah, also allotment authorities have compulsory purchase and leasing powers to obtain land allotments, but this is very, very rarely used. And although legislation gives no time frame for meeting the demand, Welsh Government would actually expect to see some progression made within the year, but the reality on the ground is quite different. And I know Sarah, you might have something to sort of say about that.
Sorry, I was just finding this bit of the 1950 Act, so I've got no idea what you just asked me, I'm afraid.
It was just about, the provision of allotments if 6 residents or more.
Oh gosh, this old chestnut, yeah. So it is in I think it's the 1920. I can't remember which Act, but this comes up again and again about 6 local residents, if they come together and request of the allotment authorities, it can be community council, a town council, or a local authority, that they want a new allotment site, that they have to provide it for them. But that isn't, unfortunately, the case. I'll find this bit as well and stick it in the chat. And because of the wording of the Act, says that they have to consider the request. So they can consider it from now until the end of time without actually being obliged in law to provide it. So the spirit of the Act is that they have to do their best to provide something, but actually you'd find it very hard to pin them down to that, I'm afraid. But they often don't know that. So there's absolutely no harm in making the representation if you do want a new allotment site and trying to get your local authority to, behave along with the spirit of the Act. But yeah, there's no actual obligation on them to provide a new allotment site, I'm afraid.
Nick, you had a question.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of, I think you've possibly already answered it in the sense that our community councillors, we've had our more than 6 local residents, make applications, and the council say, yeah, great idea. And then they come back to us and say, okay, Nick, you can get on and sort it out. Tell us when you've got it all organised. So they're not, they're supportive, but not actually doing anything. So is there any expectation that they would do anything, or have I got to sort of, find out all about tenancy agreements, engage a lawyer, get a planning officer, do all the work myself?
Yeah. So I mean, it depends on your local authority. So who have you approached? Anglesey County Council?
Unmute. And well, no, yes and no. It's the community council, which is just much more local, Llangod and Penmon,
right?
Which is a tiny corner of Anglesey. Anglesey's got county council, but it's the community council say it's at their level that it has to work.
Oh well, I mean that isn't
available.
Say again.
Is there any land available?
We think there may be. There's a yes. We think there is. Won't go into the local details, but yeah, we're working on that. But they've said to me, "Oh, can you find some land? Ask around." sort of thing.
So I mean, it's not necessarily the community council that has to do it. They can do it. They are an allotment authority, but the county council can do it as well. So the most recent site to open on Anglesey is one in Llanfair PG.
Yeah.
And they had some land from the local authority that was a cemetery overspill. So it was like a cemetery extension, which they're now unable to use because of the newish regulations around cemeteries and watercourses. So that land was no longer suitable for a
Yeah.
cemetery.
Oh,
So
yes.
they've given them access to that. And in the last few years, the Welsh Government have allocated to each local authority somewhere in the region of £30,000 every year for allotment development, for new sites, or to to deal with derelict sites or whatever. So they also managed to access that money, which came through the local authority, like from the Welsh Government through the local authority. So they're not going to be giving any more of that money. Unfortunately, that's come to an end. But the last portioning of it was for last year and this year. So they might well have some left. And I'll make a note of it and try and find the name of the guy in Anglesey County Council.
Yeah, I know
Bill
that.
and somebody.
Yeah, Anglesey County Council did have some money. And
Right, okay,
they
yeah.
offered it to us 6 months ago, and it was, it was turn of the year to get on and get it sorted. Here's the money.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, because the community council and the county council, failure of communication, the financial year came and end of the financial year came and went, and the money disappeared before we could grab it.
Oh, that's a shame.
So
I know where you are. I know where Llangoed is, and I also know that it's like lovely and rural, and you're unlikely to have terrible problems with vandalism or anything like that. So your costs for setting up a site should be fairly low anyway.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't let that put you off that you missed that grant.
Nothing puts me off.
And if you have identified some land, who does it belong to? The land you've identified?
Well, there's an estate, Helvera Estate, which was given to the community, gifted to the community.
Yeah.
So the whole land somehow belongs to the community. I think the ownership is with the county council.
Yeah, so Hylver Gardens, yeah?
Yeah, well, it's actually a field on the site, rather than the gardens themselves.
Fantastic. Well, I mean, we can help you with, sorting out a lease if you want to do, sort out heads of terms and to lease that field off the council, or, if the community council want to take on a lease, or anyway, we can talk about that at length later on, but we can help you with that sort of thing if you want to do that. But the short answer is yes, you will have to do most of it yourself, because unless the community council are excited about doing it, you can't make them do it. But it's not terribly difficult, but it is quite time consuming, as I'm sure you've already found out. Yeah.
Yep. Thank you.
No problem.
Great. Sam's asked in the chat, will these notes sent to you after? Well, these are just kind of my notes. And particularly, what we're going to do is we can signpost everybody to a allotment toolkit, which is on our website, and that contains lots of different sections about all sorts of aspects of managing allotments, getting land, about planning, about managing a whole host of things. So we'll send them out afterwards as well, or I might try and put some in the chat as well. But I think probably sending out email is a bit more efficient, isn't it? And also for people who are watching on catch up, how do we manage that? Might just share the allotment. Oh no, just come off. Oh, can't see anyone now. That's a bit disconcerting. Yeah, on Social Farms and Gardens website we have got and if you go in the search tool, there is and you just type allotments, there's an awful lot of information about allotments and different programs that we've run over the years. So that is also obviously a good point to go to. Sarah has just shared in the chat about the restriction and the abolition of keeping hens and rabbits, and she cited the Allotments Act in 1950, and that is the statement about how you can allow the provision of keeping chickens and rabbits, but not cockerels. Just thought I'd mention that.
Yeah, not cockerels. And the last sentence is the one to use if you are finding that the hens are causing are prejudicial to health or a nuisance or affect the operation of any enactment. So if the hens are attracting rats and it's causing a nuisance, then you can say, actually, sorry, we can't have hens. If that's what you want to do.
So I'd just like to ask, are there any more questions that people would like to raise now? I kind of feel like I've kind of broadly summarized some of the allotments and the law. I don't know, do people feel like I've missed out anything, or you have any other additional questions? Nick's got something. I've seen your
Yeah, I
hand,
mean,
Dave.
it's as I'm a complete newbie, this is all very fascinating and very interesting and all that sort of thing. I suspect for some people it's all old hat, but is there any reading material, that would just get me up to speed on the things that we have to do when you're starting from scratch? I don't want tomes, but some sort of guidance, something I can read through,
There is. So I'm going to put actually in the chat now, it's quite a comprehensive document that is in the chat now. It's a document that Social Farms and Gardens was very instrumental in putting together on behalf of the Welsh Government. Sarah wrote a number of sections of this document, so it's in Cymraeg a Saesneg. So that's kind of pretty kind of go-to resource. Basically, it does contain everything. I think yeah, it has been updated. There is also I'm going to put it, I have got it access now, our toolkit, which is on our website. Our website actually is due to be updated next month, but in the meantime, hopefully the links will still work in the future. Why can't I add anything? Oh, has it come through in the chat, the guidance, Sarah? I'm trying to.
Sorry, I'm just finding the other bit of the other
right.
act
Okay.
that somebody wanted to see. No, can't see anything.
There we go.
Oh, there it has now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Tracy points out that the National Allotment Society also have a lot of useful resources, which is true, they do.
Yeah, and as I said, Mal, who is the representative in Wales from the National Allotment Society, is very keen to join this forum in the future. He wasn't available tonight. So yeah, they've also got a wealth of really useful information too. And this is the link in the chat, which will take you to our website page, where it's got the kind of list of all the kind of different fact sheets and resources, etc. And I'm just seeing if there's anything else I'd like to share with you. I'm just going to pop it in the chat again now, which is the Facebook page. So for those of you on Facebook. And there was something else. Oh yes. This is, I don't know, I think a number of you have already completed it, but as I said at the beginning, it would be really useful to get a sense as to what other topics, if you would like to meet us again, and we can kind of host this space for conversation, and it can be themed, etc. I'm just going to pop that in. So it's a very, very short form with some suggested topics, and then a space for other topics that you might want to ask us more questions about. And we can also bring in people who have other experience and knowledge as well. Let's see. Sarah's also just shared in the chat about yes, the duty of certain councils to provide allotments. So this was going back to the conversation we had about if sixth or more residents were keen to have an allotment in their community and what that means, and that terminology.
The very last sentence is the one that lets them off the hook, I'm afraid. The council shall take such representation into consideration. So, there's that's not enforceable, I'm afraid.
However, politically, these things can be a way to go forward as well, if you can get buy-in from your local member.
Definitely, yeah.
Then,
Yeah, the
then
spirit of it is that they should provide it if it's reasonably possible for them to do so.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we
Yes.
can.
Hello, Lucy.
Hello, it's Lucy. Yes. I just wanted to say that the national allotment grants from Welsh Government are still, the local authorities are still using them and allocating money and money to sites. And it's the department that manages those grants is the same people that manage the Community Land Advisory Service, which is the service that we run. So we're in, our funding officers are the same people, so we're in quite close contact with them. And they're quite interested in scrutinizing how they're spending the money and encouraging them to reach out to communities if local authorities aren't able to deliver allotment sites themselves. They could use have the money and give it to community town councils or community groups and allotment associations to set up sites for themselves. And we're trying to get them to encourage that more and more. So I would just try and scrutinise some of these county councils to make sure that they're making full use of this offer. And it's running to the end of March next year. And they are hoping it will continue afterwards. But obviously we've got that they'll be looking then for whether that funding will continue afterwards.
Yeah, I did think it was this year as well, so that's good to have that confirmed that they still can use that money. Thanks,
Yes,
Lucy.
yes.
So this is specifically money that the Welsh Government gives each local authority. The local authority does have to apply for the money, so there has been occasions in the past when the local authority didn't quite get their act together to request the sums of money, but it is direct from Welsh Government straight to local authorities for them to support the provision of allotments. So that's hopefully clarifies Tracy's question.
So can I just clarify? So any application would be to the county council?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they'll have, although many of them don't have allotment officers, there will be somebody in the local authority, and you could speak to your local county councillor to find out if there is an officer that's charged with administering the grant for the local authority. So yeah, have a chat with your county councillor ward member to see if they can find out a bit more about it in the local authority.
Yeah, I know who that is in Anglesey. So I'm going to find his email now in the chat, but in my emails. But it sounds like you have already spoken to them and they've said that it was last year's money, but I think maybe they just misunderstood that. But it's possible that they spent it clearly.
Yeah, it was very informal, and I think we need to formalise it. So I think the right person and the right email, you know what I mean, putting it on a formal footing, contact would be good.
Yeah. I understand that they had to apply at the beginning of the 2 years. It was 2 years, a tranche of 2 years worth of funding. So they may have already allocated that money, but it'd be interesting to see, wouldn't it, if they're spending it on the different sites that they'd mentioned in their original application, and if there's any money left over for them to help deliver community sites.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm just going to send you that now, Nick.
Thank you.
He's a really nice guy, so he was pretty helpful with the site in Llanfair PG, but clearly allotments is not his job. He's an engineer or something like that. But you know, so it might just be that he's a bit pushed for time, and you know, give him another try.
I'll
Yeah,
approach him.
his name is Dullan. I think it's like T. Dullan Edwards. So
There is another question going back up the chat from Robin. I don't know, Sarah or Lucy. It says, what support are local authorities obliged to give allotment developers on local authority land? We've had planning permission, but a request about what help was available went unanswered. Robin, do you want to just kind of expand on that a bit? I'm not sure I quite understand. Maybe Sarah or Lucy do.
It's we once we've began going through the process of complying with the conditions of the planning permission we were given, I asked one of our Vale of Glamorgan councillors what help there was available from the council. She gave me a name in the Vale Council office to whom I should make contact, which I did, and that was several months ago, and I'm still waiting for a response.
Is this the Vale of Glamorgan Council allotment site that they told you needed planning permission for? When did you speak to possibly myself a few months back about?
Yes, I may have. Yeah, I think I did.
I don't think they should have made you apply for planning permission for it, because allotments aren't development. They're specifically excluded from the meaning of development, and they shouldn't have been imposing all those conditions on you.
What I was, my next question in that case is, to whom can I send the link to the planning permission? On the Vale Council, which will tell you the hoops that they're asking us to jump through. Which was the question why I was looking for what support they might give, because it occurs to me it would be good to get somebody to take a look at this to tell us whether there are any banana skins in there that we need to be aware of.
I think if you get back in touch with me, or
who am I speaking to at the minute?
Lucy
Sorry,
Taylor.
So yes, actually,
let's have a look at those conditions, and then we'll go back to the planning authority and say, you know, I think you know we'll have a chat with them about the different things that they're imposing and whatnot, and just challenge them on a few things. Yeah.
Okay, Lucy, that would be helpful.
Yes, Robin,
could you stick your email address? Can you stick your email address in the chat?
Robin, I've just stuck Lucy's email address in the chat.
Well done.
And I think that we've got your contact details before, actually, because I recognise your name. So it's just Lucy with an IE at farmgarden.org.uk. So Lucy is the planning expert.
Wonderful,
So
wonderful.
we always default to Lucy's expertise when it comes to planning.
We're often informing planning officers about this area of planning, and you know what the definition of development is, and these sorts of things, and that, you know, it should only be structures that you're applying for planning permission for, really, because it's not a change of use of land, because it's not within the meaning of development. You know, just growing food isn't something that needs planning.
Development.
No, it doesn't.
Interesting.
So we have been quite helpful in the past to planning officers where they haven't really known this particular area.
They don't know the difference.
Yes, you know, sometimes it's just something that they don't really come across very often. So
sometimes they like to ask you to apply. Sometimes they like to ask you to apply just to give people a chance to object, which is
there's a longer story about this, there's a longer story about this about which I will not bore you. But we could perhaps, Lucy and I could perhaps talk about that at some stage.
Yeah, we can have a little chat online or something about it as well.
Great.
Can I clarify about the issue about not needing planning permission because it's not development? Does that include the sort of ancillaries if you want to put up a building, a shed,
No,
if you
do
want to put
need
down
permission.
paths, so if there's
Yeah.
right, so you
You
don't have
do
to
need permission for structures. There are some permitted development rights in Wales for very small structures, greenhouse and tool shed for 6 meters squared each.
right.
But it is a bit of a grey area. What amounts to development? Some very small compost toilets. We can make a case to say that they're not. But then when you go into some of the bigger compost toilets, or you go bigger tool sheds, bigger glass houses, these sorts of things, then those sorts of things do amount to development, and you're likely to need planning permission for. If you're doing paths and you're just putting bark chip down, that's not an engineering operation that amounts to development. But if you're doing any excavation or putting tarmac down, for instance, then that is something that's likely to amount to development and then needs planning permission.
Okay, thank you. Helpful again. Very helpful.
Okay.
Marvelous. I'm just going to check if there are any more messages in the chat. I can't see Sam planning. Sam's asked, do we need to apply
I've
for
unmuted myself. I didn't want to just go in. So we asked our plot holders to ask permission for sheds, greenhouses. But I didn't know there was any particular thing that we need, any route that we needed to follow. So people have got their own sheds, greenhouses, etc. How do we stand?
It's very common right across Wales. You in Wales? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very common. There's thousands of sheds and greenhouses across Wales that have been erected without planning permission, because you get the landowner's permission and then you need to get the planning authority's permission separate. And it's local authorities aren't going to start enforcing all these sheds and greenhouses all over the countryside sort of thing. But the Welsh government did create some legislation to allow for some small sheds and greenhouses on allotment sites, just to sort of clean up that area of law. So it's likely that the majority of allotment plot sheds and greenhouses don't need planning permission. Now that we've got this new legislation, it does clarify that. But if you're thinking of bigger communal type sheds, for instance, then those sorts of things might need planning permission.
Yeah, some of the plot holders have got very large sheds, but they're pre-existing before I come along.
I wouldn't worry too much about it. It's only when somebody complains to local planning authority enforcement officers that they then have a duty to investigate. But whatever they do has to be in the public interest. They can't just start enforcing sheds, because it would set a massive precedent across England and Wales. So
is there a limit that we could say, because some people have got like quarter of their plot that they've made into a polytunnel and a shed they've made themselves. Is there a size restriction? After that, we should be thinking, actually, you can only go that far, and after that, you can't put anything else on.
Yeah, if you've got a full-size plot, it's 6 meters for a tool shed, 6 meters squared, so 2 by 3 basically meters for a tool shed, and 6 meters squared for a greenhouse on each plot.
Okay, so
but also just to say that in your tenancy agreement you can have stipulation as to how much size the plot, how much of the plot needs to be cultivated. So my allotment, for example, there's only so much, I have to make sure that I don't know whether it's something like 80% of my plot that needs to be cultivated, that I can't have structures and stuff. So there is different ways of managing it depending on what your agreements state as well.
Okay, that's fine.
we do have some more like resources specifically about permitted development rights, and I'm just going to start sort of winding things up now because we've just got a minute to go. I'm quite keen to finish punctually, if that's okay. But hopefully you've got all our details. We've got your details as well. I will be following up. It will be next Tuesday now, but I will be following up with all the links that we've spoken about. Please get in touch with us for sort of specific questions. We're happy to kind of have one-to-one conversations with you, and it'll be great to kind of carry on the conversation. And so yeah, do look out for future sort of public sort of open sessions like this. Really value everybody kind of contributing questions and comments and etc. So with that, unless anyone's got anything burning to say, I would like to
I would like to say thank you for this. It's so nice to find out so much information in one place. And Tracy could be my new best friend.
I think Tracy could be all our new best friends.
We're all very grateful to Tracy. What fantastic advice that was.
I've sent my mobile number. Just text me, let me know yours whenever.
Okay, so noswaith pawb, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you
everybody.
Diolch.
Noswaith.
Hwyl.
Tara pawb.
Hwyl.